In this example, we'll look at how to solve an equation by factoring, even though it's not a quadratic equation. Here's the example, 4x cubed minus 4x. And it's not quadratic because it's not an x squared, but it's what I'm going to call quadratic-like. And we're going to solve this the same way that we would solve a quadratic equation by factoring, and that's to start by factoring the greatest common factor. You'll notice that both of these terms have a 4 that could be factored out, and more importantly, they both have an x that could be factored out. So I'm going to factor out the 4x. Now, if you were doing this on your own and you didn't notice the 4, as long as you notice the x, we'd actually be okay. But it's a little bit better if we get the full greatest common factor, the 4x. So when I do 4x cubed divided by 4x, that's like a 4x times x divided by 4x. The 4 is reduced, the x is reduced, so I'm left with an x squared. And then 4x divided by 4x is just 1. So we have 4x times the quantity of x squared minus 1. And oh, this is a real bonus because now we also have a review of the difference of squares. This is such an important factoring pattern to recognize, that when we have a perfect square subtracted from another perfect square, so b squared subtracted from a squared, it always follows this pattern of two conjugates, a conjugate pair, a plus b times a minus b. So whenever we see a difference and it's a binomial, there's two terms, the question you want to investigate is, are they both perfect squares? And in this case, yes. X squared is x times x, and 1 is the same thing as 1 squared, or 1 times 1. So because they're perfect squares, I can factor this as x minus 1, x plus 1. But when I factor that, don't lose the 4x. So we'd have 4x times the quantity of x plus 1 times x minus 1, and that's equal to 0. Now, when we solve by factoring, after we have it completely factored, we're going to set each of the factors, including the 4x, equal to 0. So we have 4x equals 0, or x plus 1 is 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. And the solution to any of these three linear equations is going to be a solution to our quadratic. So I could divide both sides by 4, x equals 0 over 4, which is just 0. So we have x equals 0, although that's the easiest of the three, that's the most forgotten, the most missed, because a lot of students will forget that x outside the factoring, the greatest common factor x, also gives a solution. It's the easy solution, x equals 0. And then if x plus 1 is 0, I could subtract 1 from both sides to get x equals negative 1. I said negative 1, but wrote 1. Sorry about that. Or add 1 to both sides to get x equals positive 1. So there's our three answers. X is equal to negative 1, 0, or 1. That's an example of solving a quadratic-like equation by factoring, and it would be really beneficial to you if you could find additional examples, try them on your own, and check the process. I hope that this video has helped you a little bit. Let me know if you need further assistance.